Hi, this is Don McAllister, and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online for iOS. Now, this tutorial is being published on the same day as Apple release iOS 9 and watchOS 2, two major updates to their mobile platforms. In this initial show on iOS 9, I'm going to cover some of the basics and then follow up in future weeks exploring in more detail. For this episode, I'm going to assume that most people are already aware of the implications of upgrading your iPhone or iPad and will upgrade to iOS 9 wirelessly using the built-in software update mechanism. Now, once iOS 9 is available to you, just go to Settings, General and Software Update to install. If you're unsure about the upgrade process, take a look at episode 181 where I covered upgrading to iOS 8. All of the considerations remain the same, namely before upgrading, check your most critical apps are supported on iOS 9 and then back up your device via iCloud or via iTunes on your Mac. iOS 9 has been pretty stable during testing, but you do need a backup in case of problems. Now, even if you use iCloud backup usually, I'd strongly suggest making an encrypted backup via iTunes on your Mac as well. The local encrypted backup will back up your passwords and health data in the unlikely event you do need to restore your device. Apple have made significant improvements in the size of the installation package, so you no longer need over 5 GB of free space to update. iOS 9 itself is just 1.3 GB in size, and if you still don't have enough free space, iOS 9 will automatically delete apps to make space and then reinstall after the upgrade has taken place. Now, as far as compatibility is concerned, iOS 9 will run on an amazing number of devices, although all functionality is not available across the board. So this particular diagram here shows you all the different devices that it will actually run on. So basically, iPhone 4S and above, iPod Touch 5th and 6th generation, and then all the iPads from the iPad mini upwards. So it's really only the iPad 1 that isn't supported. Some advanced features of iOS 9 won't work on all devices. For example, picture-in-picture and slide over are only available on the iPad Air or later and the iPad mini 2 or later. And the new split view is available only on the iPad Air 2, iPad mini 4 and the newly announced iPad Pro. And of course, the slide over and the split view functionality isn't available on any version of the iPhone. They're iPad-only features. So what is actually contained within iOS 9? What benefits will it bring? There are quite a few new features and some enhancements to some existing features as well. For instance, there is increased performance with the inclusion of this new metal subsystem for more recent devices and better performance for older devices as well by some optimizations made under the hood. There's increased battery life, Apple say up to an hour just on your standard device, as well as some new energy saving modes when your battery is nearing depletion. Siri has been enhanced significantly as well as search, and there are some new and updated applications, including a new news app, a new wallet app to replace Passbook, the Notes app has been updated significantly, Maps have been updated with transit information, and pretty much all the standard apps have had some improvements. There are some major productivity enhancements for the iPad with a new QuickType software keyboard, slide over and split view, which we'll look at in a bit more detail, and picture-in-picture on supported devices. There's also enhanced support for physical keyboards with keyboard shortcuts for the first time. Now, in this episode, I'm going to cover a lot of the new stuff at a fairly high level, and then return to the individual apps in future episodes and drill down in a bit more detail. So into iOS 9, let's slide to unlock. You'll notice that the passcode is by default now 6 characters rather than 4. So I've just set up a basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for demo purposes, of course. You can also use Touch ID if your device supports it to get past the lock screen. Now, first thing you'll probably notice is we have some new wallpapers. So there's a whole raft of new wallpapers you can experiment with. This is the default iOS 9 wallpaper. And also we have a new system font. So instead of the Helvetica Neue, we now have this new font called San Francisco, which is the same font as used in OS X El Capitan. Now, some additional applications that you might see when you first power up your iPad or your iPhone. The first one here on the home screen is the News application. This is a brand new application which is basically a news aggregation service. Now, News is having a limited rollout. Initially, it will be rolled out to the US and Australia and the UK on launch day. If you don't see it straight away, don't worry about it too much. It might take a day or two for it to appear on your device. not to be confused with newsstand applications. There has been some confusion around the new News app and newsstand applications. In fact, while we're talking about newsstand, if I just go across to the next screen, you'll see we still have newsstand here, but the original newsstand icon has now been replaced by a standard folder. And within that folder, I had 2 newsstand magazines installed on this iPad. So if I go into here, you'll see they appear now as standalone applications. So News isn't taking over from Newsstand. News is a completely separate service. All your magazines that you have in Newsstand will remain, but they now appear as separate applications. So what you can do is you can actually tap and hold and drag these out of the folder and have them just as standard icons on your home screen. Okay, so you might actually want to take Screencast Online magazine and move it across to your home screen so it's always there. So no worries about magazines, they're not disappearing. The News application isn't going to take over Newsstand, they will coexist. Now, another application you might notice, in fact I haven't installed it on this one, you do get prompted during the installation process to add an iCloud Drive icon to your home screen. And that is basically a way of accessing your iCloud Drive files and folders without going through specific applications. It sort of gives you direct access to your iCloud Drive files. If you didn't select that during the installation, you can switch it on. If we go into Settings, if we go down to iCloud and into iCloud Drive and then Show on Home Screen, back out. It's now on my second page. There is my iCloud Drive icon. I can tap into there and get direct access to my iCloud folders and documents. But we'll come back to the iCloud Drive application itself at a later time. Let me just go back out to the home screen and we'll swipe across. Now search has been enhanced and they've actually brought back something from a previous version of iOS. We can still get to search by pulling down from the center of the screen. We get the search panel. If I just type cancel there, we can also now swipe across to the right and go into a separate search screen. And this gives us access to the search panel, some Siri suggestions, so some applications that I've accessed recently, and also news as well. Now, as you start to use iOS 9, this search page will actually change. It will reconfigure itself to match the activities that you do regularly. There are some proactive elements built into iOS 9, and this is all done on the device itself. It doesn't require access to the Apple servers. So for instance, if you're sort of in contact with people, if you're sending messages to people, those people you've recently had contact with will also appear on this page. If you have applications installed that have been developed to use the new enhanced search features within iOS 9, you can search for files and documents using this search page as well. And we'll have a look at that once I install some additional applications to see how this page changes over time. But let's swipe back out to our home page. Let's go ahead and start an application. Let's start Mail. Now, to get to multitasking, it's the same as it was before. If I double tap on the home button, we get a brand new representation for multitasking. So I can swipe across, see the various applications that are running here. If I'm using handoff, if I go across to another device that already has iOS 9 on, so I'll pick up my iPhone. If I go to, I'll just slide to open my iPhone. And if I go to Safari on the iPhone and select a web page, you should see there right down at the bottom, Safari from Homer iCloud's iPhone. I've got a Safari handoff panel. I can just swipe up from the bottom and that actually displays the page that I'm viewing on my iPhone. So handoff is now available from the multitasking panel, and of course it's still available from the lock screen as well. But let's go back to multitasking. So if I double tap on the home button, as before, if I want to delete or stop any of these sessions, remove them from memory, I can just swipe upwards and they will be cancelled. Let's get rid of all those. Now we're back to just our home screen. Okay, let's take a look at the Notes application, and I'll sort of show you some of the basics of the Notes application, the new updated Notes application, but really to show you the enhanced keyboard that's now available within iOS. So if I tap on Notes, so welcome to Notes. We can add maps, photos, and more for a richer Notes experience. There's built-in sketching, and we should really have realized that a stylus was on the way when we saw this first version of Notes when it came out in the beta, and we can find our stuff easily. We can have a look at what's called the attachments browser. So let me go ahead and say continue. Right, now I have used Notes before on this particular Apple ID, but the previous version of Notes used IMAP. It used a very strange way of synchronizing Notes. And they've now moved across to full iCloud syncing. So you do need to upgrade Notes on all your devices where you want them to synchronize. So it's prompting me here to upgrade to El Capitan on my MacBook Pro and also on my Mac Pro. So just be aware that if you do upgrade now, your Notes won't be visible on any devices that aren't running either iOS 9 or El Capitan. So if you're not planning to upgrade to El Capitan until the full release, you might want to hold fire. But I'm going to go ahead and say upgrade now. So we have 3 notes that have been converted. These are just plain text notes because this is the first time I've used the new Notes application. And what I really wanted to do is to show you the keyboard. There are some special tricks you can do with the keyboard now in iOS 9. So this first one here, the quick brown fox jumped over the fence. I mean, I can tap in, get the insertion point flashing, and I have this brand new keyboard. One of my favorite things about the new keyboard is that you can actually toggle the case and see quite easily whether or not you're in upper or lower case. So if I tap the shift key, you'll see the key caps are actually representative of uppercase. Tap it again and they are now lowercase. And that in itself is a huge boon. It's probably worth upgrading to iOS 9 just for that one particular feature. Now this particular keyboard has been optimized for the Notes application. There's some special icons across the top bar. So this left one here, we can go in undo, redo and paste. If I tap that again just to remove it. We also have the option to put in like a to-do list. So we can create a to-do list with clickable buttons. Let me show you a quick trick. You'll see the insertion point is actually flashing away in the middle of a fox on the second paragraph. If I want to move that insertion point down, I could tap and hold, get the loop up and drag it across. But with iOS 9, I can use a 2-finger drag on the keyboard. So if I just do a 2-finger drag and drag down, I can actually move the insertion point down to the bottom, let go, and that's in its new position. I'll show you a few more tricks about the 2-finger sliding on the keyboard, but let's go ahead, add a return, and put in a checkbox, and I can type. Hit return again, let's say yellow fox. Okay, and these are now clickable, so I can tap them to mark them off as done or not. Put another return in. Now we also have options for controlling the style of the text, so title, heading, body, etc. If I tap away from there, some suggestions for words, and then on the right hand side we've got an option to insert a photo and also to insert a sketch, but we'll look at them shortly. Let me show you some more keyboard related tricks for now. Let's say I wanted to copy that second paragraph in its entirety down to below the 2 checkboxes. Again, 2-finger tap and then just drag up to where I want to go. Right, I'll show you a trick here. If I wanted to just select the word jumped, I'll move back up to jumped. Okay, so the flashing cursor is on jumped. If I do a 2-finger tap on the keyboard once, it selects the full word. If I do a 2-finger tap twice, it selects the sentence. And if I do a 2-finger tap 3 times, it selects the entire paragraph. So now I can go to this icon here. I can say copy. And I can just tap down here and tap on here and say paste, and that is now pasted in down at the bottom. You can also make selections as well with this 2-finger drag. So if I again just move 2 fingers on the keyboard, just move it to, let's say, by this brown fox. If I let go, so the insertion point is on the word brown. If I tap with 2 fingers and hold, we get the selection bars, and I can just drag backwards and forwards to select the text. Tap with 2 fingers again and that selection disappears. Let me just do that again. So 2-finger tap and hold on the keyboard and we get the selection bars. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice, but have a play with that. It's very, very useful. Let's just tap away from there. Let's look at some of the other options. So we've got the option to insert a photo from the photo library or to take a photo or video. And then this brand new option, which is to sketch. So some pen tools down here. So I have a pen. If I just drag with my finger, we can draw freehand. I've got this sort of highlighter, which again I can drag freehand. I can change the color and swipe across to get different colors. If I want a pencil, I can just use the pencil. If I want to draw lines, I've got this ruler tool, which is really neat. You can actually grab the ruler and move it around. And then if you use your finger, you can drag down to draw straight lines. Let's go back to this nice thick highlighter. Okay, so I can move that around to draw straight lines. I can use a two-finger gesture to turn the ruler. And again, just swipe across the edge of the ruler. Either side allows you to draw straight lines. And then if I get rid of the ruler, we've got an eraser, so I can just go ahead and erase. Okay, so this is a sketch. I've got options here, by the way, to rotate it if I want. I can also send it to other applications or save the image. I can erase all, I can undo, or I can say done. Right, so that's now my sketch. The attachments browser allows you to find those particular notes that you have with various attachments. So this little icon down in the bottom corner, if I tap on here. So I currently just have the one note with a sketch in. We'll say done to that. But let's say I have a note with a web link. Let's create a note with a web link. If I go over to Safari, and let's say I want to capture this in a note. I'm doing some research, so I'll tap on the share button, tap on notes. So that's the URL with some text and an icon representing it. I can add text to my note. Now I can choose a note, an existing note to append to, or create a new note. I'll leave it as new note. We'll say save. And if I go back across to my notes application, there is my new note with the Apple website. Includes one web link. If I tap on there, it will take me to the web. I've also got the option to see it full screen as well if I want, but we'll go back to notes. If I go to the attachments browser, now we can see my sketches and my notes with websites with the URLs in. So tap on there, it takes me directly to that particular website. Now, interestingly, there is now a back button option within applications within iOS 9. You'll see up in the top left-hand corner, back to notes. So rather than using multitasking to switch between applications, I can tap on back to notes and it takes me back to where I was. Say done, and we're back out. Okay, so let's finish off this week's show by taking a look at notes on the iPhone. And I'll also show you how you go ahead and upgrade your Apple Watch to watchOS 2. So here we are across on the iPhone. This is on the iPhone 5S. If I actually go into the Notes application, of course this has been upgraded already to iOS 9. There are my 4 notes that we saw across on the iPad, synchronized via iCloud. I can see my web link. Okay, and again I could tap on there to go straight to that particular website. Again, I've got the back button up on the top left-hand corner, so back to notes. I can go back into my notes list. There's my sketch with the checkpoints that I added before. And there's my sketch. I also have the option to go to the attachments browser, see all my sketches, all my websites, all my photos, all my maps, etc. We'll say done to that. Unfortunately, what you can't do though, if I go back into this one here, if I tap into some text, now I can't use the two-finger swiping to navigate and move the insertion point around the text. That only works with the iPad. You'll notice as well there's this plus button. That gives me access to the specialized or the optimized buttons for the Notes application. But let's go ahead and say done to that. And we'll come out of Notes and back out. Okay, just to quickly show you how you can go ahead and upgrade your watch to watchOS 2. Unfortunately, I'm recording this before the software has been released, so I can't show you it actually working, but I'll show you how you will get to it. What you need to do is navigate to the Watch application. Your watch needs to be charged up at least 50%, and you also need to have it on the charger as well. But to upgrade the software, if you go to General and Software Update, it will check for updates, and when watchOS 2 is available, it will appear here. You can tap a button to start the installation, and it will automatically transfer the software down to your iPhone and then upgrade the watch as well. But that's how you do it, if through the Watch application, through General, and through Software Update. And watchOS 2 will appear here when it's available. Now, what I will do next week, I'll actually do that. I'll update the watch, and we'll have a look, as well as some of the extra features in iOS 9 on the iPad and iPhone. We'll take a peek at watchOS 2 as well on the watch. Okay, but that's it for this week. As I said at the introduction, I really wanted to give you an overview of some of the main features. There's still lots to dig into. We'll actually see more things as well as developers start to release their applications for iOS 9. So lots to look forward to. But I'll be back next week with another longer show covering some of the aspects of iOS 9 and watchOS 2. That's it for this week, though. I'll speak to you next time.